Hi, I'm Beelers, and this is one of my guides to using Microsoft OneNote. I've done a few quick start guides already, but this one's going to be slightly different. This is going to be very specific to my own workflow, how I use OneNote itself. Now, this is very personal, both in terms of the content I'm sharing, but more importantly, in terms of how I organize things. Obviously, you're going to be completely different to me. I'm only showing you this as to give you maybe some ideas or tips, or or inspiration of ways that you could use one that maybe you weren't thinking of already. And it's for example only. Clearly, I'm not prescribing anything here, but you should get an idea for or how one person who's been using OneNote for an extremely long time uses OneNote, and I would say I use it pretty successfully to run my business and run my life. So the first thing you'll notice here is that I have quite a few notebooks, and you'll notice if you look closely, you can see that the coloring isn't random. Now, I used to have random colors around, but recently I've changed to a set system. So my go-to notebook, it's just got my initials, but I work. This is where I live in this notebook. This is where I am most days. So you can see I've only got one notebook and one section that's red. So this is sort of indicates focus, I guess. And then we have green, which is sort of things that are personal to me. We then have blue, which are work projects related to related to my work. Yellow is generally a project that's sort of more personal or sort of a side project, I guess. And then orange will sort of indicate that it's reference material. It's things that maybe to refer against. Now, I'm quite an immediate person. I find it difficult, even though I use OneNote search all the time. I like to kind of be able to find. I like to know where something is almost physically. So I like to be able to put my hand to it. So I have, for example, you'll see here I have a Sifware section. Now that's things that are kind of quite up to date. Sifware is my business, by the way. So Sifware, my company, that contains things that are quite immediate, quite sort of now. Whereas I've also got a Sifware project folder down here, which is more long-term notes and thoughts and ideas. So across the top or down here, you'll see I've got 3 projects that I'm currently, taking up a lot of my time with my business. And then I've got my side projects. I can quickly get to these during the day without having to kind of think, oh, where is that at the moment? Now, your brain, I know people work differently. You may be happy to going, right, I'm working on this project for work now, so I'll go to that project's notebook, for instance. Fine. I used to do that too. I used to have a work notebook. I used to have a personal notebook. I used to have lots of different ways of doing it. This is the system that's worked for me now after sort of tweaking it for about 10 years. And I don't have to think, and that's the important thing. The second most important thing is that I'm capturing daily, and I don't really have to think about where stuff is because it just is in notebook. It's in OneNote somewhere. So to talk about maybe somehow some of these sections are laid out. As I said, I have a go-to section. Now I do that as a section per month because my experience was is if I just had like I've got an inbox, which I mentioned in one of the quick start guides. I used to have an inbox, which also had kind of notes I was working on at the moment. And the problem is that gets clogged up quite quickly. So what I like to do is be forced to clear it out each month. So what I'll do is I'll work from a notebook for a month. I'll set goals for that month. I'll say what I'm focused on for the month, what I'm going to avoid. I'll have things I need to focus on, which will all come through my month planning that I do generally on the last day of the month or the last Friday of the month. And I'll go through my calendar. And if you can see here, this is actually a physical printout of my calendar where I've gone through and can see what slots I've got. All the black stuff here is things that I don't have any time available, and then I've just put in everything else around it, and then I've then been able to figure out that all of the things on this list are likely to be achievable. I'll be honest, about 75% of it gets done. I always put a bit too much in, but that's okay. That's just margin. But I know that I don't get overwhelmed anymore. I used to get overwhelmed quite a lot trying to get a lot of stuff done, because I know that I can fit this lot into this lot. So that's my page per month within the section per month. I then have a page per week. So week commencing 18th July this week. I actually have fortnightly goals, because that fits in quite neatly with the mastermind session that I have with a few other people. So I'll take my monthly goals. I'll then translate that into things that I want to achieve in the next couple of weeks. And I'll then generally, if I have thoughts throughout the day, which I'll discuss in a moment how I capture those, when I process those at the end of the day, if I haven't got time, I'll then dump them into the week page, and then I'll know that I always have a good chunk of time allocated on a Friday in the afternoon to do my week planning. I can then do any kind of processing that maybe didn't get done during the week. So I just dump a few bits here on the side. I also leave myself notes to remind myself what things I need to think of, or focus points, or just reminders about this, that, or the other. And I'll look at this page every day. Talking of days, I then have during my week planning, when I create when I populate the week commencing N, wherever N is that week, I then also create these sub pages, which is a page per day. So this is today. You can see I was going to be recording a screencast and hopefully editing as well. I normally have a section for small things I need to get done, things I might want to get done tonight, and things, I note down that if I did things that weren't on my list. Now, all of this is done in the morning every day. Now, again, that's my personal workflow. I have a pretty regimented morning routine, which works fantastically for me. I didn't have it before, and I was constantly feeling lost, not sure what I was getting on. I wasn't very productive. I get up the same time every day. I roll out of bed. I get a cup of green tea. I sit down in front of my computer. I look at my week. I've already planned out my week in my calendar, but I then check the calendar and I put my notes in things I'm going to get done today based upon what my week plan or my fortnight plan tells me, based upon what my month is looking like. Sometimes I'll scan these, but I'll also be thinking about my habits for the week, and I paste these in daily. Now, just a quick side tangent into habits. These aren't all habits that I'm trying to learn at the same time. These are all habits that I've been doing for months now, but they're just reminders. They're ones that I need just to keep on top of. There are, last year I probably picked up 10, 15 other habits that aren't even on this list anymore because they're just so ingrained into my daily workflow now. These are ones that are important to not forget, but I'm already on it. These ones at the bottom here are new, and therefore I'm less concerned if I forget to do it day in, day out. But obviously over time I want this to go up the list and eventually off the list, because I'm no longer needing to think about it. I also, just for my own kind of journaling point of view, I also make some notes about things that I'm grateful for, things that would make the day go really well, would be like effective success criteria for my day. And I also, at the end of my day, I just write some affirmations about things that happened that were, that were good. So that's my day view. Now, down here, again, I've already told you my quirk of not kind of wanting to have things that immediately available. Now, whilst I've already got a me section, which I'll go through in a moment, and I've got a professional software section, small things that I'm working on at this moment, literally working on today or tomorrow or next week, I have some that they're always generally in the section for that month. Now, where it's more of a project related thing, that there probably is going to be a page for it within the project itself, but maybe in one of these pages are linked to that project page, so I can just go in and I can whiz over to it. Now, for instance, I'm planning a couple of weeks cycling around Scotland in September. This is some research I'm doing at the moment. I have a running journal. I make some notes about the food I'm eating. So you can see there's just stuff that I just want to find immediately is here. And then at the bottom of the page, I start getting to the point of like, well, these are my previous weeks that I've gone through. They stay here at the bottom, and then there's things I've just dumped. I tend not to delete anything at all because disk space is cheap and OneNote search is so good. So just notes of things that either I'm never going to look at again probably, but just in case they get chucked here. For instance, this is an old processing page where sometimes I've got so much that I thought maybe I've been on a trip and I've used my dictaphone to record a bunch of stuff. I'll have a page for processing. Once I've processed it or once I've filed it, it just gets dumped down here because there's a few bits and things that I need to, that I've done now. One other final thing to mention on the day view before I leave this section is at the bottom of, on the left, sort of where this line is here, this imaginary line is here, I can see that imaginary line because this page, off screen from what you can see right now, is docked. And I see about that much of it. So I see all of this stuff here, but I also have a white space at the bottom where I just dump things during the day. So I don't, quick notes exist, I know they exist, I know I can just do WinN and start writing, but I tend not to bother because I've got a page of my day where I can see, where I can just dump things down as I think of them, and then I can then process at the end of the day. So that's my, that was a quite whistle-stop tour of my use of my month section. I think of all the other things I kind of go through now, that's my most essential section, and I would be lost without it and the workflows that I've built up over the years to support my productivity system. So I then have these two personal sections here. There's a bit of a grey line between what this one and this one is. So 2016 is kind of things for the year. It's got my goals in it. I generally tend to do those over 6 months, or certainly I'll set my goals at the beginning of the year, and then I'll review them during the year. I'll have things, I call them reminders, just things to remind me of which direction I'm heading, almost a bit like a business plan but for myself. And just stuff, but it's more, I guess, around productive things. It's about sort of getting on, it's about being successful, it's about shipping things that I want to ship. Now, the personal section is much more thoughts and feelings. I record my weight. I run quite a bit, so I record races that I've booked and my personal bests. I've got a default shopping list, reminders for my wife's birthday present, ideas for birthdays, that sort of thing. So it's kind of more kind of personal to me, but it's a little, but things that I want to refer to quite quickly so they don't go into my reference section. Now we can speed up a little bit because it's all sort of pretty standard stuff. I have a section for my business. I generally don't dip into this every day because I don't need to, but it's got a business plan in it. It's got notes, things I want to refer to back to. A lot. It's got effectively like my me section, or sorry, the 2016 section. A lot of that also contains things about work, because it's about being productive and getting on. But still, evidently it's needed because it's there and it's full of stuff. But it's more of a sort of a reference section, but reference of things that I want to get really quickly and easily without having to think about it too much. Currently working on quite a lot of search engine optimization for my commercial website. So I've got ideas, I've got to-do list, I've got deep technical notes on the workflow and the things that I'm doing. So this is all here, really right to hand. The SaaS application that I'm currently writing for OneNote users, which will be summarizing tags throughout people's notebooks. This has got my to-do list in it. This has got detailed notes on quite a lot of technical stuff and ideas and things like that. So for instance, here we've got a dump of a full notebook section, all the data that I can get back from when I query the API to get a list of sections, pages, sections, and section groups. I went through my inbox on a previous screencast, but this here has some hotel details. It's got runs that I've got booked, and a few bits and pieces, basically forwarded emails and the odd screenshot. And beaters.com is my blog. You may have found the screencast from it. It's got a to-do list of things I want to do on my blog. It's got ideas of things I want to write, that sort of thing. I'm writing a book. This screencast is going to be part of the some of the content that comes with the book eventually. So you can see I've got the list of the things that I was going to talk about now, and I've only got to halfway through. But yeah, again, stuff that I'm doing, yellow means it's a project. Now, the rest, I won't go through in much detail, other just a quick things. Agendas, my team, other people I'm going to meet. I generally make notes as I'm thinking of them and I pop them in there. So then when I next meet with somebody, I've got those thoughts to one hand. That's very GTD. Ditto meetings. These are meetings I've had with people, and the notes are here. I have a good content section. Literally, if I see something and it's got to be absolutely stellar, I mean, absolutely blindingly, oh my God, that was amazing, I'll put it in there. I only have like 20, 30 pieces in there, but if it's something's just absolutely, the equivalent of a book's worth of knowledge in a couple of blog posts, it'll get pasted into that section. I have a recipes section. I don't need to go through that. And lists is this is a very GTD. I have things I want to watch, things I'm going to read, things I want to listen to, and other bits and pieces here. Now, projects, I won't go through these much. I've already mentioned these are effectively either projects that are sort of going down the list. They're no longer good enough to be up in my top tier, my immediately accessible things that I'm not working on at the moment, or I don't go to very often, but they still are a thing and they need to be kind of tracked. And then I've got all these green, remember green is personal. I've got all these green projects, like I'm building a bike at the moment for a cycling trip. I go canoeing, and again, I've been on canoeing, long distance canoeing trips, things about my health, but long-term was reference, my home, family, and so forth, and so on and so forth. So that's my personal notebook. I'm in this every day. That's all and that's my brain, basically indexed. I no longer have to feel anxious about remembering something, or I can just make a note and I know I can find it again. So I don't need to spend too much time on the rest of these, but so I've already mentioned Cifra as my company. So I have two shared notebooks here. This is my, what we call our admin section. Now this is shared with my assistant Hayley. Now she, as you can see, she's busy always making updates for me. I only ever refer to this notebook. She uses this to sort of run our business. And then for instance, I do some surveys. She always books surveys for me. I have travel. She books my travel arrangements. These are all places I've been or I'm going to go to. Now you'll notice that anything in bold here is it just indicates that she's updated it. You can see her initials here. She's been updating, and we've got our own kind of, she's got her own, or an admin reference section here of things, and I can see that she's been adding stuff. So that's stuff related to my business that's sort of more on the admin side that sometimes Hayley wants to refer me to. I do run out of, I probably only really focus on the surveys and the travel, but some of the other things like processes I add to, and the reference is useful now and again. Now the financial section I hardly ever go in. This is shared with Hayley and my accountant. Now they deal with all the receipts, they deal with everything else, but you'll basically find financial years here. So I've got the current one open, and for instance, there's all of our invoices for different purchases and my expenses, that sort of thing. Your mileage may be different, but you can see quite quickly. So Hayley will either forward, or I'll forward if they come to my mailbox, them to Hayley. She puts them in month order, all our receipts. If I have any, when I'm out and about, she'll scan my physical receipts in. They'll also appear here. Reference is pretty self-explanatory. I do have a personal reference section. This is stuff that I just don't need ever to find very often, because it'll just come up in the search anyway. Then I have a general kind of staff reference, or long-term. I try to do A to Z, and sometimes it sort of works and sometimes it doesn't. So for instance, I had a C, but then actually there's loads of conference notes, so I didn't want to delete it again. So for now that'll do. It's relatively easy to find stuff. And then the one that is A to Z is technical. What with being a geek and having lots of notes, you can see I've been doing a lot of geeking out on kind of OneNote specifications, and they're all very, very interesting stuff. Mentioned in a previous screencast how this is where I printed a document to OneNote, and I'd forgotten to put them all on one page. For this document, it's probably a good idea because there's the amount of pages there are. But this is some detailed technical stuff on the file system for OneNote itself. And you can see there I've got A to Z of technical stuff related to either work or personal. Finally, I've got an archive section. So you can see here I've got each one of my section per months get dragged here at the end of the month. So that's this year and last year. But you'll also see there's other stuff, there's other folders, projects that I've got completely demoted, or if I've sort of had different sections that were different things, and then over time they've been consolidated. Again, I don't delete, I just chuck them in here because you never know one day when that content might be useful. You can always tell from the search results whether it's in the archive folder, and you can kind of make a judgment call whether actually you want to, for instance here, you can make a judgment call whether you actually want to trust the information in it. So that ends my whistle-stop tour of my own personal workflow of using OneNote. I said very personal, maybe far too detailed for you in terms of the layout. You're going to want to put your things in different notebooks. You may be a student or a teacher, and you're going to be using it completely different to me. This is how I run my business and my life. I hope you found it useful. You can get in touch with me on Twitter. I'm @Beelers. You can also feel free to email me, beelers@sifware.com. I would be particularly interested to hear how you use OneNote, what your workflow is. I would absolutely, I suck that stuff up. So if you would like to share that with me, feel free to drop me an email or nudge me on Twitter with screenshots or anything you've produced or blog posts. I would love to read it. Thanks very much for watching and listening. I hope it was useful.